Well, almost every Iranian oil client outside of Europe has now been granted an exemption to these sanctions by the US. Is Washington wavering in its conviction, perhaps?
Well, you're right. The United States itself exempting, and at the same time the EU not, and kind of shooting themselves in the foot, what with the huge, catastrophic economic crisis currently in this continent. It seems absurd that the United States, presumably again lobbied by Israel, which seems to be running its foreign policy, wants to do this at the same time as kind of being at a war, in a war with Syria. Very odd indeed. Brent futures up $10 a barrel for May, for the following futures. So, this isn't going to help the world economy, and it's certainly not having any impact on Iran.
You say EU, they're shooting itself in the foot. I understand Italy and Greece will be particularly hard hit. Just how long, then, could the EU support this sanction?
Well, in a sense, it depends on Norwegian oil workers who've been on strike. I think the European Central Bank will be looking at this very carefully as well. Of course, Iran has, they say, $150 billion worth of foreign reserves, and they can withstand any of this. The threat, I suppose, and Iran have mentioned this, is that they may not in future sell oil to EU countries because there's more than enough demand from other countries in any case. Then it'll be the choice for Saudi Arabia to desperately try and pump oil to keep the oil price down, something that other OPEC members won't be liking. But now I think what we have is a desperate attempt, presumably by Saudi Arabia, to keep oil prices down because the EU will now be paying far more for oil.
Well, the whole point of these sanctions, Afshin, is to force Iran into a corner and to be more cooperative and be more open and reconsider its alleged nuclear program that they say, of course, is for peaceful purposes, but are being accused for pursuing a project that has other intentions. Will these sanctions have an effect on Tehran?
None of the sanctions have any impact on what's happening in Iran. I know the American and corporate media likes to say that it does, but they don't seem to realize that any problems, economic problems within Iran, are because different economic reform programs still have some time to act. And in fact, a lot of people in the Iranian parliament are arguing about the economic way forward. But as to these sanctions having any impact, Chinese oil imports, crude oil imports from Iran rose 35%. They're back to 2011 levels, and other oil nations will be importing in any case. And as you mentioned, the US exemption, Korea, Singapore and China. So this doesn't have any impact. It does have an impact in the sense that if Israel keeps upping this pressure on European Union leaders, Iran has announced that it'll be carrying out war games of surface-to-surface missiles, and I understand submarines also will be sent to even the Caspian Sea, and missiles are now being put on some of the warships in the Persian Gulf, capable of shooting 300-kilometer ranges.
Well, of course, bearing in mind that saber rattling from Israel, and let's put it in historical context, the US did actually try oil sanctions against Japan back in 1940. The response from Tokyo was attack, and you've just been mentioning a similar scenario. Could these sanctions actually lead then to the same conclusion?
You obviously have a longer memory than me, quoting 1940, but of course this is incredibly serious, and if we have some sort of more antics by the Israelis, I mean they've already been carrying out assassination programs in Tehran, how will Iran respond? Some of the even the CIA analysts have been looking at this and thinking, if oil prices, if Iran actually does suffer in any way, it's in their interests for a conflagration. So everything that President Obama doing, his support with al-Qaeda for the people fighting the Assad government in Damascus, of course him being an ally of the Iranian government, plus this continuous both military, using assassination and militants against Iran, and these sorts of sanctions, all pointing way forward towards some sort of war Obama may want before his election. This obviously would be completely crazy. Even the opposition groups in Iran wouldn't want that.
Afshin Rattansi, good to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed for joining us live there. Author and journalist Afshin Rattansi in London.